Hey guys, Kathy here from Connecting Balance, and I'm a kinesiologist, and I'm wanting to teach you guys how to detach from emotional reactions and how to help your brain come up with new creative ways to be proactive and to look at our reactions differently and how we can actually control that a little bit neurologically. Really simple techniques and really cool. So we call it emotional stress release, or more technically frontal occipital holding, and I'll explain what that is. So we start off with the back brain, which is our reactive brain, which sits back here, and this is where our occiput sits also. And the occiput is responsible for perception, for reaction, stores visual memory. Our temporal lobe, which sits in here, the job of the temporal lobe is our emotional expression. So when we are in an emergency situation, that back brain can really kick in and help get us through that emergency situation and really get us to respond. Now that's a good thing. We want to be able to respond in emergency situations, but it can be bad if we keep responding the same way when it's no longer working for us. So I'll give you an example. And that example would probably be something like if you were at school and you got bullied at school when you were younger, or you had an older sibling that pushed you around, and every time you were in fear of being in trouble or being bullied, you punched them in the face, which I do not condone, by the way. But let's say that was your reactive response when you were in an emergency situation. So what that then does is, every time you are in fear, you might respond by punching someone in the face when you are angry or whatever that emotion is. So that reactive brain, that occiput and that back brain, it remembers that reactive response, like it actually visually holds that memory, and it's what gives you your reaction and that perception that that was the right thing to do, and that is what you need to do to survive. So the front brain, which is at the front here, so this is our cognitive brain. So it's very much the thinking, the creative, the new ideas, the perception. We also have emotional stress release points in our forehead. So it's kind of like the pointy, prominent bits on your forehead. And when these are activated, it helps release stress from the body. People really do it automatically. So I've seen people that, if you're studying, people tend to sit like this when they're studying. Automatically, they are doing their emotional stress release points. People, when they're frustrated, especially a lot of kids, they can do this. They'll be like, "Ugh," which is automatically doing their emotional stress release points. So naturally, we kind of do this without even realizing. So what the technique is with frontal occipital holding, well, the purpose of it is to basically distance you from the emotion safely. It doesn't mean that event never happened. It doesn't mean that there isn't other stuff to work on when it comes to a reactive response, but what it just does is it distances you safely enough to be able to come up with a new perception and a new option to react positively rather than react negatively. And I'm really just wanting to talk about this right now because there is going to be a lot of reactive stuff coming up after COVID-19, and people are going to have these huge emotional responses, and I just want to help you work through those on a daily, and just with anything, it doesn't even have to be COVID-19 related. So to bypass that emotional response and to look at new perceptions, it's a really simple technique. It's just two hands and you're activating those parts of the brain at the same time. So the really beautiful thing about the brain is that it doesn't actually know the difference between fact and fiction. So you can very much close your eyes and imagine that you are sitting at the beach, and you can imagine the sun, and you can imagine the wind, and you can imagine smelling the air and kids playing and whatever it is to you that represents being at the beach. And your body will respond in a really beautiful way where it warms up. You can feel yourself starting to smile. Your backache might go down a little bit. Sorry, a big truck just drove past. Your neck ache might go down a little bit. But if you were to do the opposite, and if you were to close your eyes and you were to picture being in a dark alley and not knowing where you are and having to walk down somewhere without a light, and you can hear footsteps behind you, immediately the brain will start to respond as if you are in that situation. Kind of like watching a horror movie, and when you watch a horror movie and someone's being like attacked on the screen, and you know that it's not really happening and it's just a movie, but your brain responds. So you start to sweat, and you get nervous, or you feel nauseous, or you're wanting to cover your eyes. It's those reactive responses that we have in an emergency situation. So what we're doing is we're just bringing that reactive brain online, and that temporal lobe and that occiput, and we are bringing that frontal brain online, and we are saying to that reactive brain, calm down. You do not have to be in reaction. We are distancing from this emotion, and we are coming up with a new perception to create something more positive emotionally. And you just simply sit there like that for 10 seconds. So I'm going to get you guys to do it now. Do it with me, just so you can at least know how it feels, rather than watch this video and then go. I want you to actually know how it feels, practice it, and then after you've practiced it, you'll put it there. You'll put it into action. So think about a stressful situation. Think about something that's stressing you out right now, whether that is finances, people losing their jobs, whether it's health, whatever it might be for you. I'm going to think about the work that I have to do with renovating my home. And all I want you to do is just bring that emotion online. So whether that is stress, whether that is responsibility, whether that is overwhelm, whether that is worth to you, if it's about self-worth or self-doubt, whatever that might be. And pop your hand on your reactive brain, and pop your hand on your frontal lobe. And I just want you to close your eyes for a couple of minutes. Oh, we won't do that long because it's a video and that'll be forever. Let's just do a nice 20 seconds. And I just want you to keep your eyes closed and take a few deep breaths while you're thinking of that emotion. You might feel some pulsing. That's really normal if you feel a pulse at the back, or your ESR points in your forehead pulsing. It's really nice to do this one laying down too. Sometimes people can get a little bit dizzy or feel like they're rocking. That's just those brains really kicking in. And when you're ready, you can take your hands down. So practice it. Awesome for kids. I do this on kids all the time. If you're one of my clients, I do these on my clients all the time. It just creates that really safe space for them. So practice that frontal occipital holding, also known as emotional stress release. Get that that front brain working with new perceptions, and just use that as a really beautiful tool in your toolbox, where you can do it at the end of the day when you're lying in bed, or anytime at work when you're feeling stressed, or even in your car. All right, my loves, have a great day.